Good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully, you can hear me. I'm Len Bernstein, and welcome to the Addith
Okay.
Israel Lunch and Learn. Uh, we still have people who are joining us, but we're going to start on time because of the incredible program that we have. If you
Okay.
can
I'll
keep
talk to you later.
your
Okay.
phones and
I
your
have it.
computers on mute, that would be great to improve our sound. Just a couple of announcements before we start. First of all, the Addith Israel Lunch and Learn occurs once a month, except in the summer. And if you're not on our email list, all you have to do is let me know, and we'll add you to the list, or you can put in the chat your email, and I'll make sure that it gets added. Um, Secondly, our Addith Israel monthly lunch and learns are open to all, and we're so happy to have so many guests today. We will try to go in person back in September uh, with a hybrid approach, so we can continue to have everyone with us. Stay tuned for that. We meet on the first Wednesday of each month for the most part. This program will be recorded, and if you know folks who did not make it that want to see and listen to this incredible story, we will send the recording out. Let me know. I'm going to have to, at the very end, leave a little bit early because of a funeral, but that's not going to stop Kana Shamash from continuing with the discussion for those who want to keep talking for as long as you'd like. So, with those thoughts, and let me just repeat again, if you do not get notices by email and you want them, let me know. I'm Len Bernstein. Now, let's talk about what we're going to do today. What an incredible story we're going to tell. And I couldn't be more ecstatic to be able to introduce and reintroduce to you Hannah Elizabeth Shamash, who has been with us at the Addith Israel Synagogue. As you will find out, today's program is going to be both informational and autobiographical, which is very exciting. We'll also have a special guest who Lizzie will introduce from a special museum in Jerusalem. Kenneth Shamash, before going to JTS and becoming a chazanit, was a very active opera star and performed in many places, including a place that's special to me, and that is the 100th birthday celebration of Leonard Bernstein at the Kimmel Center. There can be no celebration more important to me, so thanks for being a part of that. But we are delighted and ecstatic to be able to sit and listen to the incredible story of the migration of the Iraqi Jews. Hannah Shamash, welcome. You have the floor, and thank you.
Thank you, Len. Hi, everybody. I have to say, my heart is pounding. I feel more nervous than going on stage. And I think it's because I'm so excited, and also my family history means so much to me. We have not only a very special guest, Lily Shore, who's joining us from Israel, and that's amazing, but I also see two of my uncles are here, my uncle Maurice and my uncle David. And also next to me is my own dad, Jacob Shamash. So you're going to learn more about all of them in a moment. We have very little time. I want to use every minute, so I'm going to speak a little bit quickly. And I've also been kind of strict about not allowing the chat during our talk today, and also not allowing you to unmute yourselves. But there's going to be a little bit of time at the end for Q&A. So let me jump in. I chose this topic because, I was going to do Jewish music. We had such a wonderful session last year with the UCLA lectures, and I was going to pick another. But David and I went to Israel in October, and I took a special trip to the Babylonian Jewish Heritage Center. And I met our guest for today, and I had an extraordinary experience there. And I thought, this is really what I have to share with you today. This is my own story, and it's really important. So You know, in the US, we're prominently Ashkenazi, and we know the Russian story, the Eastern European, the Western European histories very well. We study the Shoah regularly, at least once a year. And, you know, this piece of history is this Mizrahi story. Unlike Israel, we have few Mizrahim in America, Jews from the Middle East and North Africa, known as the Arab Jews. And we really are regularly robbed of a very important Jewish education that I feel is incumbent upon me to begin to share our story if you're not already familiar. Half of my story is Russian, that's my mom's side, and they went through pogroms and trauma. And the other half of the story comes from Baghdad, and they also went through great trauma. And it's a very different kind of trauma, as you'll see. Their relationship to making Aliyah and to Eretz Yisrael within their own countries is a very different story. And so we're going to learn about that today. I grew up Ashkenazi in Western Massachusetts. I grew up on gefilte fish, just like the rest of us. And I was missing half of my own history really until my early 30s because my father didn't speak much about the trauma that they endured. And when I began to learn was in 2005 when a documentary film called The Last Jews of Baghdad came out in New York City, and I went to screen it. And I learned things I didn't know at all growing up in the 70s and the 80s because no one was talking about Baghdad in Western Massachusetts. We were just trying to be preppy and fit in and keep our heads down. So the history of the Iraqi Jews, particularly in the 20th century, unfortunately reads kind of like a spy novel or a thriller film that will keep you on the edge of your seat. What you're going to see and hear in a moment. We're talking about 2,600 years of Jewish life in Iraq that in our lifetime has been wiped out. So there were about 150,000 Jews in Iraq in 1948, and as of my understanding, the last thing that I could read by the internet, as of March 2021, there were 4 Jews left in Baghdad. And today, maybe Lily will tell us there may be none. So here's what we're going to do today. I'm going to share with you very briefly the story of my father and my father's family, and then I want to introduce our special guest, Lily Shore. We're going to see a film, a 10-minute film that goes very quickly through the history of the Iraqi Jews. And then, thank God, Lily's going to share the story of her own family's exodus, which is different from my father's, different from his own brothers, from my uncles. I was speaking to my Uncle Maurice this morning, and he said, you know, the law changed like every 6 months. So they each have totally different stories of the way they left Baghdad. And then finally, I have a short list of books and films to share with you, and we'll have some time for Q&A. So briefly, this is my father, Jacob Shamash. He was born in 1927. He is 95 years old plus. Hazak Baruch. He is the third of 9 children born to Baruch and Aliza. I am named for Aliza in Baghdad. Their family was relatively wealthy and very well educated. His father owned an import-export business and was in business with a Muslim man who, by the way, saved their lives in 1941 during the Farhud, which was a pogrom during Shavuot that you're going to learn about in a moment. Relations at that time during his growing up were fairly strong with their Arab neighbors while he was young. And my dad had a very idyllic childhood, actually, that was almost biblical in nature. He talks about camels and the shuk and eating freshly grilled fish on Motzei Shabbat by the Tigris. It's really amazing. My dad, Jacob, came to the US in 1947. He was the first of his family to leave, and believe it or not, he came to study in Middlebury College in Vermont, which is another story in its own. From there, he studied to become a physician. He trained in Buffalo, New York, and in Boston, and he met my mom here in Boston. I'm in Boston with them coincidentally right now. And then they moved to Springfield, Mass., and he practiced as a cardiothoracic surgeon for his career. So throughout the 50s and 60s and halfway through the 70s, my dad was working hard to bring the other members of his family over to the US. His parents and their eldest brother, Shaul, waited a very long time because they had business and real estate assets that would be seized if they left, and they didn't want to go and leave it behind. My uncle, my father's eldest brother, Shaul, was taken from his home in the early 70s. I think it was 1971, 72, in front of his wife, in front of his 2 young children, and he never returned. He was murdered by the regime of Saddam Hussein, and it was partly to see his name on a plaque that I went to the Jewish Heritage Center when I was in Or Yehuda. So his memory is in a room there. It says murdered, fate unknown, and it was a huge reason I needed to go there. He has no grave, and I wanted to be able to say Kaddish at least there. So my father's parents came over as late as 75. And they spoke only Arabic. My grandfather had gone blind at that time, and he died in 1978 after Sukkot, but my grandmother lived until about 1990, Aliza, so I knew her a little better. And the rest you will have to read in my dad's book. I'll leave you the link at the end. It's a sweet memoir that he wrote at age 90 together with my sister and tells their story. My parents are the proud parents of 5 children. I'm the youngest of the 5. We're all married, and they have 10 grandchildren. Thank God, and they're going to attend the first wedding of a grandchild of the 3rd generation in the U.S. this summer in Minneapolis. So now I would like to share with us this film, and then I will introduce our guest, Lily, who's going to continue. So just a moment, I'll pull it up here.
כשהרוח נושבת ומפיצה את הזרעים לכל עבר, הזרע שנקלט הוא הזרע שישרוד ויצמח מחדש. זהו סיפורה של יהדות בבל, שתחילתו בגלות וחורבן וסופו בצמיחה והתחדשות. בשנת 597 לפני הספירה, נבוכדנצר מלך בבל כובש את ירושלים ומגלה את עילית העם עם המלך יהויכין לבבל. אלפי משפחות מגיעות לבבל בתום מסע ארוך. ארץ רחוקה, תרבות זרה, דת אחרת. בשנת 586 לפני הספירה, הוא כובש שוב את ירושלים ומחריב את בית המקדש. הנביא יחזקאל, נביא הזעם והגאולה, מוכיח את הגולים על חטאיהם, אך גם דואג לנחם אותם ולנבא את שיבתם למולדת ואת בניין בית המקדש. יהודי בבל שגשגו ופרחו ושמרו על המורשת הרוחנית של עם ישראל. בשנת 539 לפני הספירה, משתלט קורש מלך פרס על בבל וארץ ישראל. הוא מפרסם את הצהרת קורש ומאפשר ליהודי בבל לשוב לארץ ישראל, לבנות את בית המקדש השני ולהפיץ את תורת ישראל בהנהגת עזרא הסופר. אחרי חורבן בית שני על ידי הרומאים, קולטת הקהילה היהודית בבבל פליטים יהודים נוספים, ובמשך למעלה מ1000 שנה הופכת בבל לבית לאומי ורוחני לעם ישראל, באמצעות הישיבות הגדולות נהרדעה, סורה ופומבדיטה. פאר יצירתם הרוחנית היא התלמוד הבבלי, ששימש מורה הלכה לכל קהילות ישראל עד ימינו. אבל ההיסטוריה מלמדת שאחרי כל שיא מגיע שפל. בשנת 1401 משמיד המלך המונגולי טימורלנג את בגדד והורג את כל תושביה, ובהם יהודים רבים. הוא גודע את תור הזהב של יהדות בבל, אבל לא את הרוח שהיא מסמלת. במחצית השנייה של המאה ה-18, בריטניה משתלטת על נתיבי המסחר בין הלבנט, אירופה, לבין המזרח הרחוק. מעמד היהודים מתעצם שוב, והם משתלבים בפריחה הכלכלית והתרבותית ששטפה את עיראק. במאה ה-19, ההגירה היהודית לעיראק התעצמה. יהודי בגדד שולטים במסחר המקומי והבינלאומי, ונפתחים עשרות בתי ספר מודרניים שהכשירו את יהודי עיראק למקצועות כמו מסחר בינלאומי, בנקאות, הנדסה, רפואה, משפטים, חינוך ופקידות. בשנת 1921, כשעיראק הופכת למדינה ערבית מוסלמית תחת מנדט בריטי, מתהדק הקשר של הקהילה היהודית המשכילה עם השלטונות. אבל לרוע המזל, בשנת 1932 מסתיים המנדט הבריטי על עיראק והיא הופכת למדינה עצמאית. הכוחות הלאומניים המבקשים לדחוק את היהודים מעמדות ההשפעה במדינה מתחזקים ומשתפים פעולה עם המפלגה הנאצית בגרמניה. בהפגנות, בכרוזים ובעיתונות מתפרסמת הסתה גלויה נגד היהודים. ב-1 ביוני 1941, כשהקהילה היהודית חוגגת את חג השבועות, מתאסף המון מוסלמי, ויחד עם חיילים ושוטרים הם מתנפלים על היהודים ברחובות הראשיים, בסמטאות ובבתים. בשני ימי החג נרצחו 148 יהודים, מאות נפצעו, ורכוש יהודי רב נבזז והושמד. הפוגרום הקשה, שידוע בשמו הפרהוד, זעזע את הקהילה היהודית בעיראק, וניפץ את חלום הדו-קיום במדינה החדשה שהבטיחה להם שוויון. הקהילה, ובעיקר צעיריה, חיפשו פתרון למצוקתם, ומצאו אותו או בהצטרפות לתנועה הציונית שהציעה עלייה לארץ ישראל, או בהצטרפות למפלגה הקומוניסטית שדגלה בשוויון ודמוקרטיה. שניהם היו אסורים על ידי השלטונות והתנהלו במחתרת. אלה גם אלה שילמו על אמונתם ברדיפות, בעינויים, מאסר ואף במוות בתלייה. שנאת השלטונות והאוכלוסייה המוסלמית ליהודים בעיראק מגיעה לשיאה עם ההכרזה על הקמת מדינת ישראל ותבוסת מדינות ערב. מוכרז ממשל צבאי, נקבעים עונשים חמורים למי שיואשם בפעילות ציונית או קומוניסטית, ויציאת יהודים מעיראק נאסרת. בעקבות הפרהוד מבינים ראשי היישוב בארץ שחיי היהודים בעיראק בסכנה גדולה, ומחליטים שצריך להעלות את כולם לארץ ישראל. סוכנים מוסווים, שליחים, נשלחים מארץ ישראל ומקימים תנועה ציונית במחתרת. הם משיגים נשק, מלמדים עברית, בונים סליקים ומארגנים נתיבי הברחה. בין השנים 1942 ו-1950 מצליחה תנועת החלוץ המחתרתית, שנקראה התנועה, להבריח לארץ בדרכים שונות כ-13,000 יהודים. השלטונות העיראקיים רודפים את חברי התנועה. אלו שנתפסים מעונים באכזריות. 2 מוצאים להורג בתלייה. ב-23 בספטמבר 1948 נתלה לעיני בני משפחתו שפיק עדס, איש עסקים יהודי, בכיכר מרכזית מול ביתו בבסרה, במשפט מבוים שבו הואשם בסיוע למדינת ישראל. אלפי צופים נלהבים מכל רחבי עיראק הגיעו לחזות בביצוע גזר הדין. נוכח הבריחה הגדולה של היהודים, מחוקקת עיראק במרס 1950 חוק המתיר ליהודים לעזוב את המדינה אם יוותרו על נתינותם העיראקית ועל רכושם. ובזאת ניתן האות לפתיחת מבצע עזרא ונחמיה להצלת יהודי עיראק. בהנהגת שליח העלייה מרדכי בן פורת ובתיווכו של שלמה הלל שהגיע לעיראק במסווה של נציג חברת תעופה, מתנהל משא ומתן עם ראש ממשלת עיראק, וכמעט כל חברי הקהילה היהודית מוטסים לישראל במשך כשנה וחצי. המחיר עצום גרמה למשבר כלכלי עמוק, והממשלה נאלצת להנהיג משטר של קיצוב. בזכות השכלתם והניסיון הרב שרכשו במוסדות השלטון בעיראק, מצליחים העולים החדשים לשרוד את תקופת הצנע הקשה ומשתלבים במהירות במוסדות השלטון, החינוך, הכספים והמקצועות החופשיים של מדינת ישראל המתגבשת. מרכז מורשת יהדות בבל הוקם בשנת 1973 באור יהודה כדי לתעד, לשמר ולהפיץ את ההיסטוריה והתרבות של הקהילה היהודית הבבלית ולהבטיח שהיא תישאר לנצח חלק מהנרטיב העתידי של העם היהודי.
Wow, so that's quite a film. I will include the link to YouTube for you at the end if you came late or you want to see it again, so you'll have it, don't worry. And now I'd like to introduce our incredibly special guest, Lily Shore. Lily is the Director of External Relations and Events at the Babylonian Jewish Heritage Center in Or Yehuda, Israel. She was born in 1957, so 30 years difference from my father, and she grew up as part of the small Jewish community there. She experienced her childhood under changing circumstances and revolutions and escaped Baghdad in 1971 with her family when she was 14 years old. Lily's going to share with us, we have the honor, she's going to share her personal story and also tell us about the center so that, God willing, when we make our next trip to Israel, you can make a visit there. Over to you, Lily.
Thank you. Okay, just a minute. I'm trying to see how can I share. Okay, so hi everyone. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so glad to be here meeting with you. This is our Jewish story, the Jewish story of no matter where you are, it's the same, I think, all over the world in different times. And yes, you can see in the background my photo, me as a baby here with my family. This is my mother, my aunt, my uncle, my other aunt in the background on the banks of the Euphrates when we were on our way to the tomb of Ezekiel the prophet. So this photo is very dear to me, very, very special to me because I found it later on. I will speak about that. I would like to share with you a presentation and show you other parts of our museum, of our exhibitions, which tells the story of 2,600 years and more, even more, since the exiles. So let me share this with you, but I don't know how to do that. Okay. I cannot see you. Just a minute. How do I see?
If you pull it up, Lily, and then you do share screen, and then it's shared, you should see us on the side.
Let me see. It worked the last time. Okay, never mind. So I'll see only the presentation. Okay, so this is our center, and this is our center from the outside. It is also, we have here this the address and the link to our website.
Hold on, because I don't think we see. If you pull up your presentation
Just a minute.
and then come back to the Zoom and do share screen, and then
Just a minute,
click on
let
it,
me
it
see.
should work. Because it's better we spend extra time to find it because I don't want to miss it.
Just a minute. Sorry about that,
No,
because
take your time.
it was fine with okay. All right, now we'll see. Okay.
Yeah, there we go. We got it.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yes, okay. Okay, yes, okay, something went wrong then. So I will share with you some of you know, the exhibitions that reflects the life and the history, the folklore, and other layers and areas of the life of the Jewish community, the Iraqi Jewish community, or the Babylonian, since 2600 years ago. So the museum was founded and established 50 years ago by Mordechai Ben Porat and Shlomo Hillel, who were the agents from the Mossad La'aliyah Bet, the Mossad of today, the beginning of the Mossad, and they were sent to Iraq to help bring the Jews in Operation Ezra and Nehemiah in the 50s. Mordechai Ben Porat and Shlomo Hillel established this center as research center and library to preserve the tradition, the heritage, and the history and the stories, of course, of the Jewish community in Iraq. And it is designed like a house that was, you know, the Jewish families, and also as well as the Muslim and other Christians and all the other families used to live in Baghdad and other cities in all over Iraq. So we'll see parts of the house, and we'll see also exhibitions, other exhibitions. I think that your father lived in such a house, right?
I don't know. I was never there.
Okay.
Kind of a house still.
So this is the sukkah that we built in the internal courtyard, exactly like we did in Iraq, with all the beautiful curtains and embroidered, you know, made by hand, exactly like in your house. See it here. This is our alley that depicts a replica of the small, of the narrow street of the neighborhoods in Iraq, in the old part of Baghdad and other cities in Iraq, where the Jews used to live. We see also the shops underneath the houses. And this is the replica of the synagogue, the Great Synagogue, which is believed that the Jews who came, the inhabitants of the kingdom of Yehuda, who were brought to exile by the Babylonian king, brought with them soil from Jerusalem, from Zion, and also burned stones from the burnt temple and ashes from the burnt temple, and put all this in the foundation of the first synagogue that was built 2,600 years ago. This is a symbolic, very symbolic, this is the story, but I think that in every story there is a truth, a certain truth. So they had to restart the Jewish identity because there was no temple. The temple was destroyed. Jerusalem was destroyed, and they built their synagogue and put these remains from Jerusalem in the foundation. And they kept the Jewish identity and restarted the Jewish identity from scratch. So here we have some of the exhibitions of Torah cases, Torah scrolls. This is the Sassoon family, Aron HaKodesh, who immigrated to India and started a very successful business. Also, many of the Jewish Iraqi Jews, or it was not Iraq as yet, but the Jews from Baghdad, from Basra, Kirkuk, Mosul, came to India to work for the Sassoon firm, and they developed their own business after separating, like the Kaduri family. Here we see that the Jews immigrated to many places in the Far East, into Singapore, to India, to Hong Kong, to Rangoon, Burma, and also to Shanghai. In Shanghai, there were 1,000 Jews, Baghdadi Jews, and about 5,000 Russian Jews who escaped from the revolution in Russia. And when Hitler gained power, they took in 25,000 refugees from Nazi Europe, even before the war started, before the war. So they had to, take care of all what they needed, the food, the houses, the medical treatment, education, and the Sir Kaduri, Eli Kaduri, gave an open check to the head of the community and said, "Don't worry about anything, you just take care of all these refugees." So this is, you can access material about it on the internet. This is the exhibition of the Torah scrolls cases that we display and show the different materials of the Torah cases that they used to use, the wood and the copper and this is the mirror, the leather, and the rich families have this Sefer Torah made of silver, which they kept. These are from different areas of Iraq, from the 19th century, from the beginning of the 20th century, from Mosul, which is in the north of Iraq. And these are from China and India, of the Sassoon family. Here, this one with the velvet. But the Torah inside, of course, the Torah scroll is the same for all the Jews. Sorry. Okay, we have this exhibition that shows the folklore, the life cycle of the Jews, starting from the Brit Milah, and then the Bar Mitzvah, the wedding, the Henna ceremony, and the wedding, and all the dowry that the bride had to be given by her father, by the father, and how the girls and the women had to go under the Ottoman regime. They have to cover themselves, they have to cover their faces, and were also given to marriage very, very young. Why? Because they wanted to protect the young girls from being kidnapped and being, seduced or taken, falling in love with non-Jewish. So that's why they were given very young in marriage. This is another part of the house, which faces the a living room, which faces the street. Another part of the. Okay, here we have. We're speaking about the Jews who had to give up their nationality in 1950, when the Jews were about 130,000 members all over Iraq, and after the Farhud, they started, after this pogrom, they started to escape from Iraq, and in the 40s until 48, until 49, a lot of them, about 13,000, escaped from Iraq illegally. And that's what happened when the government saw that they want to go out, so they had this law that they issued, and that enabled the Jews to give up their nationality and go for one trip only out of Iraq and not be able to come back, with no permission to come back. So this is the stamps that they have on their laissez-passer. And here, this is a stamp that they got when they entered the state of Israel. It was in 1950, 1951. They could take with them only one suitcase and 50 dinars and live forever. So these are the original suitcases that we show in our exhibition. This is what they packed in their suitcases. This is the conditions that they came to in a new country. The state of Israel was 2 years old, just going out from the independence war, the 1948 war with the Arab countries, and there was nothing, no food, no houses. They had to live in tents, in shacks, like this, from the stable life that they left in Iraq. Even though even the poor families, they have a roof over their heads and a certain stable conditions, and all the others, the wealthy or the well-to-do, they just lost everything because the properties were frozen and taken from them. They just left everything. These are the shacks, and the food was Russian. They had to get the food with coupons. They couldn't go to the store, to the shop, and buy whatever they want. A lot of Olim Chadashim, new immigrants, came to Israel at that time, and among them the Iraqis, but they were from Yemen, from Romania, from Egypt, from other places, and the country was full of, with transit camps, and they had to live in tents. They had to live in the shacks, wooden huts and tin huts, and the conditions were very bad. This is the last exhibition that, the new exhibition that we opened in memory of Mordechai Ben Porat, who established the museum, and we just had an event with his family. So this is the daughters, the granddaughters, the brothers and sister, and the grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Okay. Sorry. So, do you want to have questions answered now?
No, let's go on to your personal story, and then we'll save questions for the end.
Okay. Okay, stop share. Okay, so my story reflects the general story. Sorry, just a minute. The general story of the Jewish community in Iraq. As you said, Lizzie, your father experienced a beautiful childhood. So we as children, of course, also had very good memories, but in the background, we knew that we were in danger. We were brought up as Jews. We had our Chagim and our tradition. We went to the synagogue. We were among ourselves, among the Jewish community, in Jewish schools, and we did not. We were, of course, in contact with our Muslim neighbors, with the classmates and business partners. But as children, we were raised up as Jews, and we kept our tradition, and through all the years, even though we knew that we are Jews, we are not allowed to speak in our Judeo-Arabic language outside. We just have to be very, very cautious, very careful. But still, we try to live a normal life. So this is me with my sister. This is me and my sister and my cousin in the garden, just enjoying ourselves. The Jews in 1950 left Iraq or immigrated to Israel in the big Aliyah, Operation Ezra V'Nehemiah. about 9,000 Jews remained in Iraq. Among them was my father. This is my father. He sent his mother and his brothers and sisters, and he remained in Baghdad to see what's about his business, which was frozen. About to see if he can save something from the assets and the properties. So he remained there. He stayed alone in Baghdad. My grandfather from my mother's side, this is my mother, also remained in Baghdad with his four small children. The three daughters and the older brother made Aliyah to Israel, and he stayed with my grandfather and my grandmother and family and children in Baghdad, and they kept contact, and he was able also to help the family in Israel, who came to the very tough conditions here, difficult conditions, to transit camps, to the shacks. So the photos that I show, I didn't have all the photos because when we left Iraq, we just locked our house and everything was left inside. And the photos that I share with you, each photo has a story because I just got them in different ways. So these photos are from the album of my aunt. And this is in the house, in the old house that we saw, the old neighborhoods. They moved to another house because all the Jewish neighborhoods, after about thousands of Jews left Iraq, the neighborhoods were empty from Jews, and Muslims came instead of them, to live in the houses and to the shops, and the life was not so nice among the new inhabitants of the neighborhood. So they left to another and moved to another neighborhood, another house, another neighborhood which was with more inhabited with Jews. My grandfather was also as a merchant. He was in the Chamber of Commerce of Baghdad. They worked, and my father later on worked with him. And he, the businesses was returned to the Jews about 1 or 2 years later. So they stayed very, very stressed and, try to just manage their lives and to continue with their lives until they have their businesses back. So in under these circumstances, the Jews, of course, continued their life. My parents, my mother and my father, the wedding in the synagogue, and the beautiful dresses, and the community here that shared, they came to the happy occasion with them. We can see the modern clothes, because Baghdad or Iraq was at that time was still influenced by the British and the European, and it was very modern. The clothes were very modern. The lifestyle was modern. So it gives you an impression of what life was at that time. In the meanwhile, the sisters, the big sisters and the brother who left to Israel got help from my grandfather through New York, and they sent a photo after buying a house and buying, all what they needed for their kitchen. And this photo with no words, not a word in Hebrew, God forbid. So they won't arrest my grandfather, and it reached my family through New York, as I said, and it just shows my aunt is opening the fridge and showing that everything that it is full with food. At that time in the 50s, the beginning of the 50s in Israel, I don't know how many people had a fridge and had so much food in their fridge. And this is they are showing here that the house is they have a house, and the kitchen were very well equipped, and they are their clothes are they're dressed in their good clothes. So this is, with no words, a message to the family in Baghdad that they are okay, they are fine in Israel. And this photo also was given to me only maybe 1 year ago or 2 years ago. I didn't know about this photo. Of course, it remained in Baghdad in the house. And through New York, through David Heskel Morad, that I'm trying to find his family, of course, they sent the money, and also news, and also clothes, everything that they needed. Sorry. They lived in tents. They lived in the shacks. My family, my aunt and my uncle. So one of the times, one of the parcels were they sent a soap and a big package of soap, and my aunt divided the soap into 4 and give it to the neighbors and all friends and all neighbors, because there was no soap at that time. So here they are giving the good news that I was born through New York. And also, of course, they are in Arabic here. Congratulations for the engagement of the other daughter. Okay, this is me when I was about 1 year old, a revolution in 1958 of Abdel Karim Qasim, who threw down the King Faisal. Just a minute, sorry. At that time, my grandfather and friends traveled from Baghdad to Istanbul. One reason was to prepare for leaving. They all the time after the big Aliyah were trying to leave Iraq, but it was not so easy. They were not given passports or permissions to leave. So he traveled to Europe, to Switzerland, to Italy, and then to Istanbul to deposit, to open bank account for them to prepare to leave. But then they got the news that there was the revolution, and the family, my grandmother and the other, sorry, daughters and son were in Baghdad, and there was no news. There were no news about them. Then here I have this letter from Istanbul that was sent to the family in Israel to say that finally we know we reached the family in Baghdad and everything is okay, even though the revolution took place. The Jewish, it was a better conditions and better terms for the Jews in the regime of Qasem. He was more liberal towards the Jews, and here we see that the Jewish institution, this sign said the Jewish institutions celebrating the revolution of Abdul Karim Qasem, and here we see Jewish students, Jewish girls, young girls, Jewish students, school students, and Jewish men from the young men from the community celebrating, taking part in the celebration and this happening of the celebration of the revolution. So this is the picture that we are going. We are having this picnic after 2,600 years after the exile. This is me, my mother, my uncle, my aunt. I want to show you how life was in Baghdad at that time. So you have the, the impression of what we experienced. So yes, this was in the park. It was like, influenced by the British, like Hyde Park, but now it is like just garbage lot, Everything went very dry. And so this beautiful photo with the trees, this is my mother, her brother, and me as a baby. In this beautiful park, I remember that there used to be horses, for the children, there used to be bicycles and other things, other activities in this park. So this is in our house, me as a baby, and my family, my brother, sister, and cousins. We used to go also on trips to different, in the days that things were more relaxed. So this is me and my mother, my aunt, her husband, my other aunt. Birthday parties, bar mitzvah, another trip, and this, sorry. So this photo was given to me about 10 years ago. I did not know that it exists because this is me. So her daughter, the family, the families were friends, and her daughter was in Toronto, and she came to visit in Israel, and she said, you know what, I have photos of you and your family, so I will send it to you. So it was then that I got some photos, some new photos of me. This is my uncle and his classmates in a party in our in the house, and celebrating birthday. Another revolution, 1963. This is me, about 6 years old, and Abdul Karim Qasem was killed by the Ba'ath Party, which later on, which Saddam Hussein belonged to. And we were taken.
Excuse me, I'm just going to interrupt for one moment since it's 1:30. We're going to keep going for anyone who's able to stay, and we'll finish the program and have some question and answer. Unfortunately, I had a wonderful book list, and I tried to pop it in the chat, but because I'm not the admin of this account, I can't do it. So it's a terrific list, and I'm going to say Rachel will send out the recording of this whole session on Friday before Shabbat, and we'll include that book list. It's got about a dozen books and 3 different films that are so wonderful. I highly, highly recommend you follow down the rabbit hole. Please do look into my dad's book. It also has some great photos in it. And there's a couple more I want to mention. There are those of history. This is historical fiction, The Dove Flyer by Eli Amir, who's a very well-known, now Israeli author, born in Iraq in 1937. It's historical fiction, but it's really his memoir. And this is a recent one by Jonathan Kaufman in 2020, The Last Jews of Shanghai. Lily mentioned the Sassoon and Kaduri families in Shanghai. It's all about them. There's another book on the Sassoons on the list. So check it out. That's my infomercial. And now back to Lily.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So another revolution, we were taken back home, and this time it was the beginning of the much difficult times for the Jews. Still, we were, among ourselves, among our community, trying to make, a normal life for ourselves. This is again on the banks of the Euphrates, going to the tomb of Ezekiel the prophet. I just discovered about 3 years ago a film, or not discovered, I was given a film taken in Baghdad by friends, and it was taken in the outside, the court of the tomb of Ezekiel the prophet, and I just discovered my grandfather here in this film, and friends. This is the tomb of Ezekiel the prophet, who was, he was brought to exile together with King Yehoiachin when the Babylonian king took the Jews from Jerusalem. He was a Kohen in Bet HaMikdash, Yechezkel ben Buzia Kohen, and his tomb is believed to be in a town named Kefel, near ancient Babylon. And through all the years and all the generations, these centuries, the Jews used to go and visit the tomb and ask for blessings, for prosperity, for good life, for a son who, when the son was born, they named him Yechezkel. And that's why we have a lot of Yechezkel in our community. And as children, we used to go to the market. When we visited the tomb, we used to go to the market and buy our notebooks, our pencils, and everything that we need for school, and bring them with us to the tomb to be blessed, and that we will be successful at school in our studies. So this is the continuity. I mean, we continue to be, to follow our tradition all these generations. Again, on our way to the tomb of Yechezkel and to ancient Babylon. This is ancient Babylon and us. This is me. This is my grandfather, my aunt. The remains of ancient Babylon. This was the capital of Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian king. To to this city, the Jews were brought after destroying Jerusalem. This is me in our picnic. And these are, again, the photos that were given to me by this lady 40 years later or more. My grandmother and grandfather. This is the Hammurabi, ancient Babylon. In 1969, 9 Jews were jumping, of course, in time, but the bad times and the difficult times reached us. And in 1967, after the Six-Day War, and after the defeat of the Arab armies by Israel, the regime of the Ba'ath regime decided to take revenge from the Jews, and many were thrown to jail, to prison. Young people, but also young men, but also women. And 9 Jews were executed in 1969. And this is just a gathering in their memorial, in their memory 11 months later. So you can see that this is my mother, my aunt, my grandmother. See, everybody is so sad. You can see, the expressions of their faces, that they're very, very sad.
Lily, I think we need to, this is so incredible, and I think we need to move to questions now because people will have many questions.
All right. Okay.
We just need to do it again is all.
Okay, let me just speak of our escape, when we escaped. This is the synagogue. Okay. A few words about the escape.
Good, yeah. Yeah, a few words and then we'll move to questions. I just want to say, if anyone has a question, you can put it into the chat, or you can use the hand raising feature on the bottom bar, which is at reactions, and then we'll move to questions in a couple minutes.
Okay, so after the executions, of course, and the bad conditions, the tough life that we had, the terror, the fear. In 1970, the route through Kurdistan in the north started to be available for people or Jews to go out, because the war between the Kurdish people and the government of Iraq stopped. They have a peace among them, between them, and then we left Baghdad. We just locked our house, left everything behind. We took one suitcase and took the train from Baghdad to Erbil, and then we just went closer to the border. We met the smuggler, and then we just crossed the border to Iran, which was friendly at that time with the Shah, and we were met in 1970. It was in 1971. At that time, it was already 1 year of the escape of the Jews, that the Jews were able to escape. And the Mossad, or the Jewish agency, was involved in it, and in all the this arranging the escape of the Jews. And we were met by the agent of the Jewish agency, and we were taken to Tehran, and then to Israel. 3 weeks later, there there was an ad in the paper that with our names that we need to come immediately to the home office and report that we are there. Otherwise, all our rights will be taken from us. So this is our names. My name, my father's name, my mother's name, and my brother and sister. Okay, this is the telegram that we sent to the family that we arrived. And the first letter as free people, very, very excited to write the first letter from Iran to Israel, to the family. I didn't know that I had uncles and grandmother because they didn't speak of people of relatives in Israel. So the children will keep quiet, you know, not to mention the name Israel and be in danger, to endanger all the family. This was our photo taken in Iran for the laissez-passer in order to go to Israel. Still, we are just very, very stressed. You can see on our faces. And this is the my grandmother that I grew up with in Baghdad. And this is my grandmother that I didn't know about. I did not know about my grandmother. I just knew about her in Tehran when I was 14, and also my my other family, the uncles. This is my father, and the uncles, the cousins, everybody. I didn't know about, but we met them in 1971. Okay.
So beautiful. Thank you, Lily. Thank you. We have one beautiful question from Victoria. Will Iraq ever restore Jews' citizenship? How much has the current government acknowledged the persecution of the last half century?
Of course, the government did not, but people, Iraqi people from around the Iraqi people in Iraq, of course, non-Jewish. I'm speaking of non-Jewish Iraqi people. They discovered about 10 years or 15 years ago with the social media, through social media and the internet. They discovered that the story is different from what the regime told them all these years. So we are having, we have contacts. We renewed contacts with our friends, non-Jewish friends from school. We have non-Jewish students in our Jewish schools. We had neighbors and also classmates and people from the university, students from university. So are renewing our contact, and also other people are discovering the real story of the Jews, and we are also having visitors to the museum from Iraqi people who live in in America, in Canada, in Europe, in Australia, are coming and are very interested in this, in the real story, in the true story.
Amazing. Thank you. Wow, this has been quite an hour. A huge thanks to Lily Shore. What a beautiful presentation you've given us today. It's really a gift. Thank you.
You're welcome. I just wanted to say that I couldn't, of course, show everything of the museum, but the museum is very interesting and beautiful. and tell the story of all the Jewish people, because all the Jewish people was brought from Jerusalem and from the kingdom of Yehuda to Babylon, and this is the basis.
Exactly. I was going to really encourage everyone, when you're next able to make a trip to Israel, to please include the Babylonian Jewry Heritage Center in your plans. I put here into the chat, again, the YouTube 10-minute film we watched here today, a link to my dad's website, and I was able to put the book and film list instead of the document, just to copy and paste it in. It'll come again on Friday with the Shabbat, with the Shabbat email, and just thank you all for being here, to come and to be lifelong learners together. It's so important, and to see a piece of the Mizrahi and the Iraqi story. Take care, enjoy the rest of your week, and of course, Chag Purim Sameach. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Chag Sameach, Chag Purim Sameach.